Welcome to the deep dive. If you're here, you know we cut straight to the core of complex topics, and today we are really plunging into the source material, covering Paris Fashion Week Spring-Summer 2026. This was the big one, running from, September 29th to October 7th, 2025, and just a huge number of shows, 76 shows, 36 presentations, a lot to unpack.
Oh, definitely. And that sheer volume, it matters because, well, our sources are all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
This wasn't just another season. They're calling it a seismic reinvention, even a total architectural reset for luxury ready-to-wear. You had the big players, LVMH, Kering, kind of synchronizing these big strategic resets.
Okay, synchronized strategic resets. That phrase, it definitely jumps out. Why this season? Why did all these huge houses suddenly decide right now this is the moment for a complete overhaul?
Well, I think it's the business reality finally catching up with sort of the cultural mood, maybe. Post-pandemic luxury, consumers were demanding less flash, maybe, and more lasting value. So the goal was pretty clear. Redefine how these brands are seen, boost profitability for the next decade, essentially, by making every single runway piece feel like an era-defining collector's item. It's not just about selling a nice dress anymore. It's about selling an asset. And Paris is really the only stage with that kind of global authority to make that trend stick.
Right. So if the luxury giants are basically rebuilding their foundations, we absolutely need to understand who the new architects are. I guess we have to start with just the sheer number of really high-profile creative director debuts, this whole changing of the guards, as you put it. That seems to be what drove the philosophical shift.
Exactly. Let's call it the creative coup d'etat. I mean, the biggest buzz, the absolute hottest ticket, had to be Chanel. Mathieu Blazy, fresh from Bottega Veneta, showing his very first ready-to-wear collection there, taking over after Virginie Viard left. Huge moment.
Yeah, the pressure on Blazy must have been just immense. I mean, you're asked to update these iconic codes, tweed, camellias, pearls that, let's face it, haven't fundamentally shifted in ages.
Right. And he tackled it by really leaning into this intellectual rigor, but applied to just physical perfection. His clothes were all about meticulous detail and texture, designed to feel just inherently wealthy and technically immaculate. The idea was, get rid of any hint that this is disposable fashion, really cement Chanel as the ultimate maker of true investment pieces.
Okay, that focus on almost untouchable quality, it feels like a really stark contrast to Jonathan Anderson's debut at Dior, which happened just a few days later, right?
It really does. Anderson's women's wear debut, it was aiming for something else. Relevance. He kept talking about this people-first principle. His whole ambition was to make high fashion feel instantly relevant and accessible, not just something you admire from afar.
That's such a tricky balance for a house like Dior, isn't it? How do you make high fashion accessible without, losing that essential exclusivity?
Well, his approach was constructing things that look like couture-level pieces, but actually work for real life, not just red carpets. And he showed it right away. He took that big color of the season, ballerina pink, and put it in this sweet pink denim skirt, paired it with a matching structured bag. Very functional.
Yeah.
It's part of that architectural recalibration we mentioned. He's tweaking the structure of the brand's identity, really, to meet how people live now, making sure the clothes fit into life, not just sit in the closet.
Okay. And speaking of architecture, that takes us nicely to Balenciaga. The philosophical shift there felt maybe the most profound, especially with Pierpaolo Porcelli's debut being so anticipated.
Oh, absolutely monumental. His task was huge. Basically reset Balenciaga after all the controversies and that very austere look they had recently. Pittoli talked about recollection rather than tribute. He was digging deep into the founder, Cristobal Balenciaga's oeuvre, his entire body of work, and pulling out that core structural DNA.
So when you take inspiration from a founder's oeuvre like that, what does it actually look like today? Are we talking big, dramatic ball gowns?
No, not necessarily. It's more about taking modern pieces, things you wear every day, like leather jackets, chinos, even basic T-shirts, and applying these bold and disruptive volumes. He created what the sources call architectonic shapes. That's the reset in action. Everyday stuff becomes sculptural. A simple top isn't simple anymore. Its shape, its structure, makes it this kind of engineered, necessary luxury investment.
Okay, so we've got the new architects lined up. Blazy focusing on technical wealth at Chanel. Anderson pushing for relevance at Dior, Piccioli bringing back structural heritage at Balenciaga. If those are the new blueprints for the houses, what kind of rules did they lay down for how we should actually be dressing? Let's move from the philosophy to the physical clothes themselves.
Right. The overall mood for spring-summer 26, it really coalesced around structure and confidence. The sources keep calling it taut authority. And it didn't just feel like an aesthetic choice. It felt like a very direct, no-nonsense reply to a jittery year.
Yeah, I can definitely see the appeal of that for people. When things feel uncertain, you want your clothes to make you feel, I don't know, capable, in charge.
Exactly that. The goal seemed to be clothes that physically square your shoulders, put the wearer in charge of your body. It was about a kind of simplified, formal dressing, but engineered for maximum self-possession. We saw this taken to its most conceptual extreme, probably, at Issey Miyake, under Satoshi Kondo.
Ah, Miyake. They asked that question, didn't they? What if clothing were alive? How did that translate into actual structure on the runway?
It became this kind of conceptual armor. The silhouettes were actively reshaping the body. Forget gentle tailoring. We saw these crisp, monochrome shirts and high-waisted trousers where the shoulders were literally pulled upward into a compact line as if shrugging to the guests. Think less like everyday clothes and more like the kind of rigid uniform of a starship captain almost, shaping the wearer into this very precise, almost militaristic posture.
Wow. And these sources mentioned trousers having these extra sleeve-like panels that actually affected how the model stood. That sounds like the garment is literally telling you how to hold yourself.
It really is. It was all about garments that orient your posture, treating that space, the air between the cloth and the skin, as living volume. It's a very serious, very structural idea. It suggests that your confidence comes directly from how the garment is engineered.
But it wasn't all like stiff conceptual armor across the board, was it? How did this taut authority show up in houses maybe known for more lightness or romance?
Yes.
Yes.
That's where things get interesting, where the synthesis happens. Look at Chloe under Chimena Kamali. She took that inherent romantic lightness Chloe is known for, and she grounded it. She gave it this very measured, very intentional dose of 80s structure. Key looks had these really pronounced 80s maxi shoulders, but paired with a dropped waist. It creates this long, confident line. It proves that authority doesn't have to be rigid or militaristic. It can be fluid and quite feminine, too.
Okay, so Chloe brings structure to romance. How does that contrast with Courreges? Nicolas de Felice seemed to be going more for protection, mixing minimalism with, what did the sources call it, sly eroticism?
Yeah, protection was definitely the key word there. You saw that almost literal interpretation with the equestrian/beekeeper hybrid helmet veil silhouette designed to physically shield the wearer. And the fabrics, they often hugged the body like a protective second skin. But, and this is key, the armor was deliberately sensual. You had black coat dresses unzipped almost to the crotch, these flashes of bare skin. Shoulderless mini dresses, but with these dramatic floor-skimming trains.
So if we pull back and look at Miyake's strictness, Chloe's structured romance, and Courage's protected sensuality, what's the core message here? What's the synthesis?
I think it's about permission. That taut, commanding silhouette acts as a kind of necessary psychological armor. When the garment physically squares your shoulders, when it commands a certain stance, it gives you, the wearer, the confidence you need to then embrace things that feel more vulnerable or sensual, like that ballerina pink, or the flashes of skin, or more expressive draping. The structure is there to support the soul, if that makes sense.
It does, structure with soul. Okay, let's pivot then to some of the aesthetic details that really define this whole movement. We saw pragmatic neutrals, sure, white onyx, sage green, Baltic amber providing that structure, but the sources insist the real emotional heart of SS26 was ballerina pink.
Yeah, absolutely. Critical color. Because it wasn't just anywhere. It was at the absolute top tiers. Dior used it. Louis Vuitton showed pale pink bubble skirts and these mohair culottes. Stella McCartney had oversized faux fur coats in it. Its widespread use really signaled this idea of gentle femininity anchored by strong design.
Right, so if the structure is the armor providing control, ballerina pink is like the protected softness living inside that architectural shell. Vulnerability, but with boundaries.
Precisely. And to make those bold architectural shapes work, you need clear physical definition within them. Which brings us to the big accessory mandate of the season, the skinny belt. Its sudden, very high impact return.
Okay, I have to admit, I thought my skinny belts from like 2012 were long gone, buried deep. But the source material is really pushing this as a high utility, high impact investment piece. If I have to consider digging them out, tell me, are we talking high on the hips again or strictly low slung this time?
Well, it's actually flexible, But its main job is definition. It gave that necessary structure, that punctuation, especially with all the oversized or fluid shapes happening elsewhere. We saw these slinky, nude leather versions at Mugler, just offering definition without being loud. But then at Courage's, yeah, they were low-slung, often color-matched to the outfit. And in some really daring looks, garments were constructed entirely from tiny belts. So the belt wasn't just an accessory. It was like a foundational part of the garment structure itself.
Wow, okay, that is a structural detail. Now, before we wrap this up, it feels really important to connect this whole architectural reset back to the global picture.
Oh.
Because the authority of Paris, it feels like it's increasingly being shaped and enriched by talent coming in from all over the world.
Oh, completely. While the official schedule naturally focuses on the big established European names, you have these parallel events that are really defining the wider context of PFW now. Africa Fashion Up 2025 AFU, which happened back in June, that created a spotlight that really resonated throughout this whole season.
So the shift towards like purposeful dressing and structural authority, it's not just a European thing then. What specific talent really stood out from that AFU spotlight?
You see similar energy there, definitely.
Yeah.
A strong response to cultural identity and inherent structure. You got Ethiopian designer Howie Mideksa from HAVA winning the Best Designer Africa Award. And then Nigerian designer Frank Aguno of Fouché got the jury's special prize. His work really emphasizes instinctive style, asymmetry, and celebrating traditional textiles. It's got its own kind of structure.
And the Cameroonian brand Elolai World, run by the Ndamio sisters, they won the Digital Creation Prize. Their work was noted for elegant boldness, vibrant colors, very rooted in Cameroonian identity.
Yeah, and recognizing these innovators, it just highlights a crucial point. This desire for purposeful, confident, structurally specific clothing, it feels like a global consumer thing now. These designers are doing their own architectural resets, you know. It reinforces the idea that this PFW season was a truly global moment of creative ideas coming together, not just some corporate European strategy meeting.
This has been a fascinating deep dive. I think the final takeaway has to be that PFW Spring-Summer 26, it wasn't about fleeting trends. It was more like a grand experiment, one that decisively shifted luxury away from irony, maybe, and towards this purposeful, high-impact way of dressing, all built on that core idea you mentioned, delivering structure with soul.
Exactly. And the runway really did provide a kind of tangible blueprint for you, the listener. The key seems to be finding that balance. You embrace the taut, commanding silhouette, whether it's Miyake's conceptual armor or Chloe's structured line. See it as that external armor of confidence. And that confidence then gives you the permission, the space, to indulge in the specific, perhaps more vulnerable beauty of something like ballerina pink or maybe more expressive draping.
It definitely felt like a season that was having a much larger conversation than just hemlines.
It really did. The sources actually suggest this season introduced what they called intuitive dressing, that empowers the wearer to move forward. Meaning the clothes were somehow providing answers to questions about identity and style that people didn't even know they needed to ask. So how does that idea, this notion that luxury fashion might be anticipating and even answering these really deep-seated consumer identity questions, how does that change how you view the actual role, the immense power, maybe, of a designer's vision in our lives today? That's something to think about, perhaps, as you consider the meaning behind your next potential investment piece.